Hey Insurance, this is Tony Cañas, Chief Motivational Officer at Insurance Nerds and PNC Client Advisor at the Jacobson Group. And today I want to talk to you about handwritten thank you notes. This is very much a career-sided podcast today. This is one of our old pieces of career advice from the very, very early days of Insurance Nerds. It comes from back in the day when we were part of Nationwide's Young Professional Associate Research Group, which was called the Nationwide Gen Y ARG. Thank you notes are an interesting feature of American culture. I grew up in Costa Rica and thank you notes were not a thing. And I remember the very first time that I met thank you notes, handwritten thank you notes, and that was when I lived with my aunt Elsie in Nevada. At 11 years old, she hosted a birthday party for me, and then she made me write handwritten thank you notes to everybody who came and brought a gift. And I thought it was the silliest thing in the world. Now I've lived in the States for 17 years. It's been a long time since that day in 94 when she made me write those thank you notes. I kept reading over and over how it's a great idea to do thank you notes. And finally, what finally convinced me was manager tools. And I will link the Manager Tools podcast about handwritten thank you notes because they make some really, really good points. And basically what it comes down to is thank you notes are a bit of a dying art. People don't do them that much anymore. And especially millennials don't do them at all, or almost at all. So if you do handwritten thank you notes, it is very memorable. People keep them on their desk for months at a time. I put them on the fridge. Thank you notes are a great way to stand out. So email's not an email thank you is just not the same. So let's talk about how to do a thank you note, because a lot of millennials like me might never have done one, right? So how do you do a thank you note? Number one, it has to be handwritten and sincere in order for it to work. Okay, you can't outsource it. There are services out there that even let you use an app to buy a thank you note that looks handwritten. No, it has to be handwritten and sincere. There are 3 simple rules to write a great thank you note. Okay, number one, only say thank you twice in the note. One of those will be the goodbye line. Only once. You don't want to say thank you 10 times in the note. Only twice. Only twice in the note. Number two, never ask for a favor in your thank you note. Okay, the thank you note is a thank you note, not a thank you. Oh, and hey, by the way, could you do this? Could you do me this other favor? That ruins the thank you note. And number 3, it is never too late. The statute of limitations never expires on thank you notes. If somebody did you a favor 15 years ago and you did not send them a thank you note, it is still appropriate to send them a note today. Okay, how should you structure the thank you notes? Say thank you in the first paragraph, personalize the note in a couple of sentences in paragraph 2, and finish by restating your appreciation and sign your name. Okay, so in my life nowadays, I do a lot of thank you notes, and a lot of them are Jacobson related. So when I visit clients, I send a thank you email that same day, and then I send a handwritten thank you note as soon as I have a chance, as soon as I get home, basically, even better from the hotel. Okay, so my thank you note might look something like this. Hi, Gavin. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today to discuss your department in XYZ insurance company. Very much enjoyed our conversation about the future of the industry and how temporary insurance staffing could play. Thank you again, Tony Cañas, the Jacobson Group. Yeah, that's what it might look like. Or if it was after a job interview, that's another time where you should always use thank you notes. Then it would say something like, hi, Brad. Thank you so much for taking the time to interview me today for the PNC Client Advisor role at the Jacobson Group. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward to working with you and being a member of this exciting new team. Thanks again, Tony Cañas. Okay, so that's simple. It takes just a couple minutes, and yes, your hand will hurt because you never handwrite anything. They make a huge difference. So there's at least 2 situations where you should always send thank you notes. So there's many other situations where it's a good idea to send thank you notes, but the 2 where you should always send thank you notes is after an in-person visit with a client and after a job interview. And in both cases, as soon as you get Wi-Fi, you should send them a a thank you email, and as soon as you get home or earlier, you should send them a handwritten thank you note. Get nice stationery. It doesn't have to be expensive, it just has to be nice. Okay, get nice stationery. It really sets you apart. So most of mine go out with the Jacobson stationery because that's what most of them are their thank you notes to clients. If that wasn't the case, if I were running my own business, I would make sure to have nice stationery. So insurance agents especially, you should have nice stationery. And finally, I want to leave you with a quick story. I'm not going to name her by name, but I have a good friend from the CPCU Society, and I met her when she was an account executive, an account manager at a broker. She had just gotten her CPCU, and she went to the CPCU annual meeting 2012, and I met her there, and she's an amazing networker. And when she got home, she sent handwritten thank you notes to every person she met at the conference. This is a several thousand people conference, let's say 3,000 or 4,000 people conference. And she is, and she's a great networker, so she had met a lot of people. So she sent out probably 500 handwritten thank you notes. Her hand must have hurt for a week. One of them was to me. One of them was to an insurance leader who is C-level within the industry, and that they had only met for a few seconds in an elevator. He didn't even remember her. He was so impressed by the thank you notes that they started a conversation, which led to her continuing to come to the annual meeting, which a couple years later led to her getting a job as with him as a VP. So she got a massive promotion, spent half her time in that job flying back and forth to London, and today she is now the president of a carrier in the Caribbean. An amazing meteoric rise for this amazing woman. And to this day, she continues to do that. To this day, even though she's president of her company, I see her at a CPCU annual meeting every year, or when she can make it, no, she can't make it every year. And then I receive a handwritten thank you note, sometimes from London. Believe me, handwritten thank you notes are never a waste of your time. They are well worth it, even though they might seem old-fashioned, they work. And by the way, one thing that is interesting to me, it is not weird in American culture to message somebody on LinkedIn and ask for their physical address. It seems really weird to me as a Costa Rican, but it's normal. And I do it, and a lot of people do it with me. And when I get those handwritten thank you notes, they mean a lot. In fact, so much so, this is how silly it is. When I made Diamond with Delta the first time last year, they sent me a handwritten thank you note. It really looks like a handwritten thank you note. It could be done by some service, but it really looks like a handwritten thank you note by just a random customer service person, like customer reputation person. It's still hanging on my fridge a year later. That is how important handwritten thank you notes are. Do it. TC out.